How to make life-changing decisions as an INFP. I'm an INFP as well, and I share my process on how to make decisions that actually feel good and to minimize indecision, doubt, and overthinking, so you can actually decide on something and feel good about it and then take action without constantly overthinking your decision and feeling unsure if you picked the right thing or the wrong thing. So the first step, I'm doing this live for myself because I'm currently in the process of deciding where I want to move and where I want to relocate myself. I'm currently living in Munich, which I don't like too much, and I don't see myself living there for the next few years or something. And I'm also not sure and I haven't decided yet on where to go. And I use this process to give me clarity and to know exactly what to do, especially for life-changing decisions like relocating yourself and finding a nice place where you can live from. So the first step is actually to find out where you are right now. So what's your current situation? This is very important. So this is your starting point and where you actually begin. And then you need to understand what is your desired situation, okay? And it's very important to make this as clear as you possibly can. So for example, in my case, it's a bit big, smaller. Okay, so in my case, I'm currently living in Munich, in the city center. I'm living with my girlfriend and she has to stay in Germany a little bit longer. Okay. Then as well, you're where to put your income in here and maybe your friends and all these different things. Close to my parents. Okay, and I don't like it too much, which is fine. And this is the starting point. So the more specific you are, the better it is because it allows you to actually find more appropriate options and solutions for your unique situations. And then you want to do the same thing for your desired situation. So we know where we start and we also know where we want to go, because otherwise, if you clear on your starting point but you have no clue where to actually fly to, then you might end up somewhere you don't want to end up in and be frustrated about it. Okay, so, and it's very important, I have to remind myself this as well, I'm not deciding on anything right now. I don't have to decide. We're just going through the motions step by step. The decision comes much later, not now. And we're just brainstorming. So desired situation, I want to live somewhere sunny, meaning 300 or let's say 280 plus days of sun. That kind of rules out a lot already. I want to live abroad, so I want to move away from Germany again. I traveled before a lot and lived abroad, but then I ended up in Germany for a while, for a few years, which was nice. And now I'm looking to go for the next step and to move abroad again. Then I want to be in a place with like creative people and where there's like an art scene kind of, and more people that are doing creative things, artists, things like this. Let's just put this down. I want to live somewhere closer to nature. I feel like I'm kind of done with the city, or at least like not move completely out of the city, but maybe somewhere on like the edge of a city, so the outskirts of some nice city. Yeah, let's just roll with that. Okay. So now we have the starting point. we know where we are right now and we know where I want to go. I'm living in Munich right now. It's probably like 220 days of sun, maybe, or maybe even less. I'm not sure, but I think somewhere around 200. I'm living with my girlfriend there as well. With Gav, and she has to stay a little bit longer for some legal reasons. Not legal, but for her visa and stuff like this, because she's not from Germany. And I'm still close to my parents and I don't like it too much. It's gray as well. Gray. And the city center, okay. This is also important to me. Cool co-working spaces, offices, modern gym, cool cafes, BJJ, producer, DJ scene. So I can connect to some other producers and some DJs and stuff like this. And modern gyms, cool cafes, BJJ, cool trendy restaurants is kind of my thing where I like to go to. Especially because I like cooking. So where I can just experience some really nice stuff in an aesthetically pleasing environment. And cool co-working spaces because I just hate working from home. And I need a place where I have some cool co-working space where I can go to, okay? That's it. All right, so once we have this, we can actually start to brainstorm about some options and solutions. And I would still suggest that you don't make a decision and you don't force yourself to make a decision, and you just start pretty much brainstorming, or with a really classic mind map, figuring out some options that you have. Let's take this thing for it. There you go. Options. I actually like opportunities more as a word. Opportunities. What's another cool word? No. Options. Okay. Will do. Will do. And now we just look at this thing. And I see I'm here and I want to go there. Like, what kind of options do I have to get there as fast as possible? And what are some opportunities that will allow me to get to my desired situation? So for example, I could potentially, move to Australia, which is something I've been thinking about. With girlfriend, okay. I could also, if I'm not sure where this place might be, I could also travel for a few months maybe, or travel slow, because I don't want to travel like this hardcore traveling I did when I was younger, where you just sleep, where you pretty much sleep in a different bed every night. It's too stressful. But maybe like slow travel, where I stay there or in a place for like 1-2 months until I either get sick of it or I really start to feel home there and I love it. So until I find place I love. Okay, maybe I could go LA or California. But this has a drawback with like the whole visa stuff and things. And I haven't been there in a long time, so I don't know if I actually like it. Same with Australia. I mean, I've been to both places, but it's been a few years ago. And obviously things change, I change, my values change. So I can't 100% certainly say that I like it and I want to stay there and feel home there. So it is an option, but again, moving there directly, not sure if that is the best option. Maybe not, because then it's very hard to reverse. If I move there immediately with my girlfriend, with everything, and I want to preferably do steps that are easily reversible, so I can then change and adapt my strategy and plan. Okay, another option. where you also have to take in the financials, obviously, depending on how much you earn here and how much you want to earn, because moving to LA will cost me a lot more than moving to Bali or Thailand, which certainly going to Bali. But again, I don't want to live long term in Bali. I could stay there for like, I don't know, a few months, then I kind of get sick of it. But it is an option. It is an option. I could also south of France, maybe even Italy. Okay. Then another option is I could live in Vietnam for like 1-2 years, which would allow me to have an even higher saving rate and to even cash or stack more money, which would then allow me to, for example, go to Australia and then buy a really nice house there or something else, which would be an option too. Okay. And you want to do this for as long as it needs to. Okay. I would even go put this into AI, ask for more suggestions and more options and opportunities that I could take. So for example, I have a few options now that I could potentially consider, and I could go even deeper and make them more detailed, which would make sense. So for example, in France, maybe I can already imagine how I want to live there. Maybe some cool house somewhere in Provence or south of France. I already put there. Okay, with nature around. Yeah, so once I have this, we come to the next step, and this is so important as an INFP because I know for myself I need to make the decision based on meaning and purpose. If it doesn't have meaning or purpose as my guiding North Star, I will start to overthink and I will not be feeling too well about my decision, and I will probably start to act a little bit indecisive. And in my case, I just take my values and I write them down here. Let's take a few. Being different, going my own path, all right? Then belonging, camaraderie, community. Is this? No. Yeah, whatever. Camaraderie is the word I'm looking for. Then belonging and being the best. Okay, those are my few of my values. Free of limitation, quality over quantity. And what also might be useful for you if you notice, but I worked them out in the past. If you just look at really amazing moments of your life and you ask yourself what kind of emotions you felt there, then you have some of your primary emotions, and those are usually the emotions that drive you to pursue certain goals or make certain decisions in life, because you think that if I go to Italy, I will finally feel these emotions again that I felt as a kid. And by being more conscious and aware of this and then intentionally setting goals that will allow you to feel those emotions again on a regular basis, you kind of starting with a much clearer picture in mind, and there's a much higher percentage that you will actually feel the way you want to feel once you make your decision. And it's an incredible guiding force and north star to make you make decisions very intentionally. So in my case, it's accomplishment, then what's this in English, like ease, not worrying, worry-free as well. Yeah, worry-free. Okay, and again, belonging. Okay, so what I do now is I look at my values and my emotions, values and emotions. And the goal is essentially to go through all my options that I've put down there. And again, we're not making any decisions, and to match them with my values. Like for example, if I live in Vietnam for like 1 or 2 years and then buy a house or a mansion or something in Australia, in LA, does this actually align with my values of being different or going my own path? Will this allow me to feel belonging and being the best? Not really, actually. So in that case, just delete it because it will only distract you. For example, going to Bali, this obviously is way too unspecific and you need to be extremely clear on what your outcome is. For example, moving to Australia with my girlfriend. This would certainly allow me to go my own path and be different. Belonging as well. I lived in Melbourne and Sydney before, and I know there's a really creative scene and a lot of cool people that you can meet and build communities and stuff. So it will certainly give me belonging. And it will also allow me to be the best, especially if I move there and I build up a new life and I build my entire family there and stuff like this. It will certainly allow me to fulfill this value, free of limitations as well. But only really this comes as well with the financials. If you can like live a really good life there, then obviously this is the move. And quality over quantity as well. It will actually give me that as well. Like I wouldn't feel quality over quantity if I were to move, like live in 10 different countries and just get like as many different reference points as I possibly can. It wouldn't fulfill this value, but in that case, it actually would. Accomplishment as well. This is a big step. Ease and worry-free, kind of is. I guess this depends also on like the quality of living and politically and all these different things, and belonging as well, I already said. So this actually would be a solid, good option. Okay, so we can mark this. Again, we're not deciding, we're just picking this out. And I would now go through all these different ones until I actually find like maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 options that actually align with all these different things. Okay. And what I also will do is I will give myself time. I'm not forcing myself to make a fast decision. I can make this decision slow, especially if it's such an important life-changing decision on where to move, and also think through all the different options I have. And then over time, the answer will probably stare in my face. It doesn't take long, and every time I did it exactly this way, after like a few weeks or maybe a month or 2 months of just looking at this thing again, coming back, editing it, maybe putting options there, removing options, looking at the values, matching it with my values and my emotions, and thinking, okay, like where could I potentially go that will allow me this, but also allow me to feel these emotions and values, and adding new things. The answer will just speak to me. It honestly will. And once I have this level of clarity, then I sit down and I make a decision. Not before. What you can also do is you can do this in a little bit of a meditative process to think through more options. So for example, if you then you've gotten down to like 3 options of what you should do and where you should go, you can do this in a meditative process where you also visualize yourself with your long-term goal. So this one over here. And then later on with your values, and you do this to see what matches your long-term goals and values as well. Okay. Once I have this, and let's say I'm like, okay, I want to move to Australia, then I've already made the decision. What is now the next step is to actually find a way, because this is a very overwhelming step for me to move from Germany to Australia. So I need to brainstorm what the best steps are in order to achieve this goal. Okay, so it's not repeating the process, but now it goes more into strategy. If I set this as a goal, then I want to break this down until I know what the exact next and the smallest possible step is that I can take in order to make progress towards this goal and achieve that goal eventually. So for example, for me, it would probably be, so I would have to do some type of scouting trip down there. We can write this down, scouting trip. Okay, so at least like living there for 2-3 months in order to really see if this is a good fit, and also travel through a few different locations that I could potentially see myself living in. All these different things, very important. Once I do the scouting trip, maybe there's some other location I want to do a scouting trip to, and maybe I can combine them over like 4 or 5 months. Then I obviously need to see all the financial plus legal stuff. So how am I going to visa? How hard is it to get a visa there in a long-term stay or permit to stay there? How much does it cost me to get a place there, to pay for all the visa stuff and all these different things, okay? And so on and so forth, until I'm at the first step, which then might end up being booking like a scouting trip or planning a scouting trip, because that usually is the first step before I start doing anything else. Okay. And what I would also suggest before you make this decision, and you kind of have your options there, is 2 things. I would think about the consequences and potentially like the downsides and the upsides. Like for this decision for me to move to Australia, what are the downsides and potential trade-offs and consequences? So for example, I couldn't see my parents that much. I needed to start a new life there. I have the visa complications, all these different things. And then also potential upsides, like what could happen if I actually do this. And the last thing is to do some type of fear setting, where you just write down what are like the worst options or the worst thing that can happen if I actually do this, and how can I prevent this, and how could I potentially fix this if it actually happens. And you can find this is from Tim Ferriss. You can find this online if you just type in fear setting. But it helps a lot to just remove the indecision and the doubt and all these different things to start making progress towards your goal.